Talk with a Southern accent. We are y'all and a little Marty Robbins. And what a wonderful time of year here on this show that covers the South to hear a flashback like that. And there's a reason we have that flashback, as we're joined now on Y'all Talk with a Southern accent with Jon Rawl, General Jon Rawl, CSA, Certified Southern American. We're joined by another CSA, Certified Southern American. It's the Toccopola Storyteller, Jerry Short, on with us right now. We're going to go to Toccopola and relive some of the good old memories with Jerry Short. And also, we're going to talk about the crisis that's going on in Memphis right now with the I-40 bridge being shut down. This is not the first time a major thoroughfare across the Southeast is shut down because of infrastructure woes. And we'll get Jerry's take on what he knows about similar problems that we've faced as a region in terms of our road repairs and bridge repairs. That will be coming up in the upcoming segment. But right now, let's go to Toccopola, where the storyteller awaits. Hello, Jerry.
Jon, how's it going, guy?
Oh, it's going good.
I'm outside today. Is that all right?
You're looking good, sounding good. You just go wherever you got to go there in beautiful Toccopola. You heard us. You might have heard us playing a little Marty Robbins coming in. A little white sport coat. Does that song there bring back any memories for you?
Well, if I was a big bopper or somebody, that I wouldn't have had anybody to dance with, but I could wear a white sport coat back in the day. Now I'd have to wear a white trench coat or raincoat.
Jerry, I wanted to play that song because I had something that happened to me over the weekend, and I don't normally come on this show to brag about myself, but I'm going to pat myself on the back just slightly because I could have done more. I could have definitely done more. But I was out to eat by myself on Saturday, and I was not in the most fancy restaurant in town eating. I would often say this is the kind of restaurant, it's perfectly the standard to wear blue jeans and T-shirts and ball caps, frankly. But they got good food, and that's why I chose to go there and have a nice little less than $20 ribeye. And that's not common to be found in the Southeast this time. And while I was in there, Jerry, having my romantic meal of one, a couple walks in, a high school couple that appeared, and I can't prove it, but she was all decked out, and he was all decked out in his fancy suit and white tennis shoes. Jerry, I think they had just come from the prom.
Well, that's possible.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what they had been to, the prom. We're in that time of year here in the South where people are having the proms, and I did something that I don't normally do, Jerry. I was a nice guy, but I could have been nicer. When I left the building, the restaurant, I left a nice portion of their bill I paid for, unbeknownst to them. And I'm sure I didn't pay for the full amount of their meal, but I just felt like it was a cool thing to do to give this couple $20. That's what I gave the cashier. I said, here, put this toward that couple over there. They're out having a good time. And I just felt like it was a cool thing to do. And I'll tell you why I did it, Jerry. When I was in high school in South Carolina, I was so proud of South Carolina. In my senior year, a cute girl had moved into my high school from North Carolina, and she wanted to go to the prom with me, Jerry. And I refused to take her to the prom because she was from North Carolina.
What?
Yeah, isn't that stupid?
I was an LSU girl, and I married one.
I know, but I just had that arrogance, and I'm like, I can't take her to the prom. She's from North Carolina. And looking back, I might have traumatized that young lady. She might have a picture of me on the wall that she spits at every day. I have no idea. But how stupid of me.
Well, yeah, that wasn't exactly real bright.
No. So I just didn't go to the prom. I didn't go to the prom when I was in high school. And looking back, it's probably something I should have done, which is part of the reason I gave the money toward that couple. So I got to ask the Toccopola Storyteller, which this segment's not about me. It's about the Toccopola Storyteller. Prom memories for you. Did you go? What are some of the fun memories for the storyteller?
Well, talked about that not too long ago, and with people, and I don't think we had one. We had junior senior banquets, which I would compare that similar,
Mm-hmm.
So we'd dress up for that and do that. As far as a prom, we didn't do that. Now my kids have done it, so I've been through it. Grandkids have done it, been through it. So I can talk to you a little bit about the
Well,
prom.
that's one reason I wanted to bring it up to you, because I know you may have gone and you weren't quite as arrogant as I was as a youngster, but you've been the father. You've been the father of a daughter who's gone to prom, and it can't be cheap to send a daughter to the prom.
Well, I tell you what gets Cotillion is pretty bad also. I've had to go through Cotillions with my daughter and my granddaughter, and that's kind of promish, because at those you have dates, you have tuxedos, and you have pretty expensive evening gowns. So I would equate that with a prom. And some people do proms different this day and time. I heard you say white tennis shoes.
Yeah, the young guy had on his nice suit, but he put on white tennis shoes with his tuxedo.
Yeah, I wonder if he went on. Well, I guess maybe he was really dancing hard or something.
I don't know.
That sounds a little bit unusual. The white tennis shoes.
They were bleach white. They just like they just come off the shelf.
Well, he may have bought them just for that then.
He might have.
Do you have a white tuxedo?
It was somewhere along that. I didn't study at his outfit too closely, but if he did have to buy the tennis shoes, well, he's $20 richer because of that expense.
That's true. So you got him in pretty good shape. That's pretty impressive. Well, I'm proud of you over here in Toccopola.
Well, like I said, I'm not bragging too much because I didn't tell the waitress, hey, let me just take care of their whole meal. I didn't go quite that far. Maybe I should have. But I just felt like it was probably a nice thing to do, especially since he was taking her to maybe not the nicest place in town. I don't know. They suckered me in with their sparkling attire. I thought it was a nice thing to do.
Well, you went back a few years in history, and you grabbed a hold of the way things used to be. And, hey, that's pretty impressive.
Well, one reason I did it is because I didn't have a $20 expenditure when I was 17 and 18 years old on a prom, so I felt like it's my time to pay up, and I'm not going to look.
Yeah, you're still thinking about how you messed up with that North Carolina old girl.
I know how stupid of me, and I thought you might get a kick out of how stupid I was back then.
Yeah, I don't think I turned down that Tar Heel. I wouldn't have turned down anybody from anywhere. I didn't have that many offers.
Well, times have changed, Jerry, and I have that philosophy now that I don't care what state, territory, or even hemisphere you're from. If you're somebody that I might have a good time with, I'm all for it. But at that time in my life, I was so I guess
you was a little uppity.
I was so uppity and looked down on those from North Carolina for some reason. I don't know why.
Like I said, I wouldn't have dated the LSU girl. But when I was 18, I found out, hey, that's not all bad. So I ended up dating lots of LSU girls.
Yeah, I'd love to have an LSU girl right now. Go Tigers. So, yeah, prom, it's going on for all of you out there listening or watching who have gone through the prom here this year. Congratulations. Many of the proms of 2020 did not happen because of that virus. And so I think a lot of proms this year might have even opened it up to members from the class of 2020 to come be a part of it. And that's a neat thing. But I know
they could do it on graduations too. Yeah. A lot of that went on. Yeah.
I know it's a special time of year, and we got proms and graduations. And then you said cotillions. Now, Jerry, we might have people tuning us in right now who have no idea what exactly a cotillion is. And me being the uppity person I was towards South Carolina, well, frankly, I'm just white trash redneck when it really matters. And so I never was part of a cotillion society. So what the heck is a cotillion?
Well, a cotillion it kind of goes back to the old South. It's a French terminology. And it goes back to a big dance and a big, it's kind of like debutantes coming out. Mm-hmm. They'll come out of their cotillion and they'll be escorted by such and such. And it'll only take so many each year. It's kind of like getting in a sorority or a fraternity at a university. It's similar to that, but it's on more of a high school. And say it starts at about 14 years old. but they'll actually start. Some of them will start younger than that, teaching kids how to have etiquette and how to mix in society. Probably goes back to the old days where, that was really more of a thing to do. Even though my children live now, it's big in that town, and so every year, I know my daughter was in charge of the decorations this year, and for her daughter, but her daughter was debutanted last year, but they still come out and they still be escorted, and they come out and then they have a big dance afterwards, and they have a nice meal, so a good meal. So that's kind of a cotillion type situation.
But you mentioned it as some cases, if not most cases, has a connection to the antebellum South. Yeah. Have you seen or heard of some cities across the South getting rid of these things?
I haven't, but I'm sure it probably has. And if I hadn't heard it, don't mean it hadn't happened. But it's probably coming if it hadn't. It's now in our town. It hadn't been in our town where my daughter lives and where my grandchildren live.
We'll just call that. You're talking about South Toccopola, down in South Toccopola.
Yeah, that's south of the creek. You got to get on the other side of the creek to do that down there. But yeah, it's a big thing. And like I said, even my son, he's got 2 boys. He ain't got any girls. But the boys have to play a big role in it also. They have to dress up and they have to wear a tuxedo or the suit. I know my son the other day was in Memphis looking for a special cut suit for his son, who is an 11th grader, to escort a 10th grade girl. So, you know how it goes.
No, I don't know how it goes, but I'll trust you on this, sir.
Yeah. Well, that's a cotillion type thing. And it's kind of a coming out, and it's kind of where the young kids that started learning etiquette and stuff at a real young age, they kind of show what they've learned, So that's kind of what happens.
All right. Kind of like a Southern bar mitzvah, if you will.
Yeah, kind of that. But I equate it a lot more to the Greek world at some of these universities. Mm-hmm. Not to name any that really get big into it, but Ole Miss might be one that gets kind of big into it because I had to go through that world up there also.
Congratulations. I'm sure your wallet expanded during that time.
Yeah, I had to rob a few banks to get through it, but we got through it all, and I guess I'll let them get through this next one with the grandkids.
I hear it. We're talking with Jerry Short, the Toccopola Storyteller. This is the Y'all Show. Stay where you are. When we come back, we're going to switch from talking proms and cotillions to bridges and what in the world's going on in Shelby County, Tennessee. All that is coming up next as the Y'all Show Monday edition rolls on. Back in for more of Y'all Talk with a Southern Accent. I am your host, Jon Rawl. It is our time each week where we welcome in the man from Toccopola, Jerry Short. He is the Toccopola Storyteller, and we have him on to tell us about the good and the bad and the ugly of the Southeast, and he goes back in the archives as well often when he's here with us. Jerry, if you weren't aware of the headlines from this last week, in addition to a Georgia-based company having a pipeline shut down affecting gas prices throughout the entire east coast and southeast of the country, we also had another catastrophe. This one might be a lot longer and maybe a lot more painful in the pocketbook and just a big inconvenience. The Hernando de Soto Bridge, which connects Memphis, Tennessee to West Memphis, Arkansas, one of the busiest bridges across the Mississippi in the entire country. A crack was found, and it's been shut down indefinitely. So if you're having to pass through the Mid-South on Interstate 40, it is a big mess, and it's going to be going on for quite some time. We've got our Toccopola Storyteller here to tell us about what he knows about this, but also this is a recurring problem, and it just shows how vulnerable we are in terms of infrastructure. Something that could have been done a long time ago hasn't been done. We haven't been building like we should have, bridges and tunnels and all the other things that a progressive so-called 21st century leader in the world that the United States is supposed to be doing. And here we see one bridge being shut down. It's going to be a big pain in the neck for quite some time. Jerry, your thoughts of what happened in Memphis and where this leaves us as a region.
Well, I tell you, John, now that you mentioned all that stuff, I hadn't had a lot of time to think about it, but I was thinking about it while you were talking. And, that bridge that they built there, that Hernando de Soto Bridge, that is the bridge that they'll put two ends on it first, and then they'll cable it, and then they'll start hanging stuff to it. And they made that, it's shaped in the form of an M. I think I remember a professor at Memphis State when they built that bridge, probably in the early 70s, if I'm thinking right. Probably built it about 72, 71, 73. Does that?
I think it was built in 72.
Okay. So he made the comment at the time that it would be too much weight for the center, where the center of the M comes down on those pilings. So I think that could possibly have had some. Now, I think it's a crack in one of the beams right now, and that beam, if it could go, the whole bridge could go, I assume, because I've known of a couple of incidents similar to that. It used to be a bridge across the Mississippi River at Greenville, and it was in a real sharp curve of the Mississippi River, and it got hit many times by barges and things, and they was expecting it to someday just take a lick and cave in and go down, and that's happened. And all of them aren't those same type bridges. Some of them might just be spans. If you think about the one on I-40, I went by it probably 20 years ago. On the Arkansas River where it crosses in Oklahoma, and it knocked the whole section probably 500 yards out of it. And that bridge was closed a long time. Half of it was a barge had hit it, and it knocked the pilings out from under it, and it fell in. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was probably 15, 17, 20 people killed there. That before they could get stopped on the interstate, they just all going to run straight off into the Arkansas River, which it's a lake there, I think, if I'm familiar with that area, which I am. So
this is around Fort Smith?
It's on beyond Fort Smith in in Oklahoma. It's about where you turn to go up to Tulsa on that around
Will Rogers.
Yeah, going west. I think it's over there. It's close to Aminoke from Muskogee. Mm-hmm. It's in that area there, and that's where the Arkansas River comes down after it comes from Tulsa and comes on down, and it knocked it completely out. And those things have happened in other places. When they, that bridge at Greenville I was talking about a while ago, I think it was put up in the 40s, and I remember people talking about an airplane actually flying into it. But, the structure, they were steel, and I don't know if they were more sound. But in Memphis, like you mentioned a while ago, they're rerouting them around that old Harahan Bridge, which is Interstate Bridge. 55. It's the Interstate 55. Of course, it wasn't when it was built. It's probably built in the 20s or 30s. I don't know. It's a pretty old bridge. I used to go out there like a fool sometime and walk the beams on one of the railroads. It had two railroads parallel to it.
That's pretty dumb.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. But until they'd run me off. But it's got also a pedestrian bridge on it now, too. So it's carrying a lot of weight and a lot of traffic, and it's carrying two trains. It's kind of like down in Louisiana, the Huey P. Long Allen Bridge. Allen being the next governor after Huey P. Long. And he built a lot of bridges down there. It's kind of like in West Virginia, everything's birds. But you go down there in that bridge in New Orleans, it goes so high, I think it's about 500 feet down to the river flow from the top of that bridge.
You're talking right at the city?
The city one, yeah.
Yeah.
The Huey P. Long Bridge. But no, they had another one. I'm sorry. The first one, well, that Huey P. Long is the same way. But the Huey P. Long Bridge is the one on, it went by Fast Domino Club, Carrollton, I believe, which would have been old Highway 190 in New Orleans, coming out of downtown New Orleans, coming off of Canal Street. But that bridge had it had two trains on each side. It had a train on the left side and the right side, and I believe it was a 6-lane bridge. And it's made it, and they built that other one down at New Orleans, which is really, really high. You can see, I think I've heard it described before as a bridge you can see from one cloud in the Gulf of Mexico to the other cloud in the Gulf of Mexico. And but to get back to talking about all these bridges and what can happen when they go down in infrastructure, I've often and for years said that this thing, our enemies, and we're building more enemies. It seems like every day. If you think about the Oklahoma City federal building explosion, that was done with fertilizer and a U-Haul truck. If you parked one of those on every bridge up and down the Mississippi River, with Memphis being the probably center of commerce and being moved through that area on I-40, and like you mentioned earlier, what a highway I-40 is, all the way from the Carolinas to doggone, I think it ends in Barstow, California. But anyway, you could blow those bridges up, and the United States would be completely shut down. And you think about the bridges we've got. I mean, you can go all the way to St. Louis, and you come down, and then you've got another one at Caruthersville. You got one at, I believe, where the Ohio runs in, or at Cairo. There's another bridge crossing of the Mississippi River. And it wouldn't take a lot. It wouldn't take a lot of fertilizer trucks. And then you get on down here, and you get Caruthers, you get this Memphis bridges, and you get Helena, Arkansas, Mississippi Bridge. And you go on down, you get Greenville, and you get Natchez and Vicksburg, and get those 4 or 5 in Louisiana. Hey, you shut America down completely. They'd never get it going if you'll check these roads that lead to these bridges and how you would get back and forth to them and from them. How could we send commerce across this country? You couldn't fly it. We don't have enough planes. We don't have enough trains. You wouldn't be any trains. You'd blow those tracks up also. And they could take a battalion of men and shut America completely down overnight, and that would be with bridge, just with our infrastructure and our bridge. Also on those bridges, a lot of them have pipelines carrying oil that are on them. Yeah. Now we drilled. I was doing some work for a pipeline company a few years ago, security, but we drilled under the Mississippi River at Vicksburg, and that's really unique. You come from each side and you meet, and you run a 42 or 36-inch pipe under the river. But then the way it used to be, they'd connect them doggone oil pipelines to the bridges, and they'd wrap them. But you can still get to that. Do you think what you'd blow up? Just think of all the danger and the damage it could be done to bridges with this infrastructure if something happened like that. So we could be in a real serious situation that I don't ever hear them talking about.
No, and another thing, Jerry, we're kind of centering on the Memphis problem, but this is a recurring problem throughout the entire country. But just Memphis alone, okay, this DeSoto Bridge is 50 years old, and the bridge that people are being routed to now, the I-55 bridge, is actually 20 years older than that one. It's 70 years old. And Memphis is one of the biggest cities in the South. I-40 is one of the most traveled interstates east to west across the entire country. How in the world could the government of the United States primarily, but also the cities and the states of Arkansas and Tennessee, not be pushing all these years for a massive new bridge to be built across the Mississippi there in the Memphis area? The bottom line is, Jerry, there's been a new interstate come into the Memphis area over the last few years, Interstate 69, but the good old government years ago decided that thing, instead of crossing the Mississippi near Memphis, it was going to go cross somewhere north of Greenville, Mississippi, a long way away from Beale Street.
Well, that's the NAFTA highway. You familiar with NAFTA, Interstate 69? Mm-hmm. And DeSoto County, which is the county in Mississippi, the most northern county, they had bonds, and they built that thing around them down to the casinos. Mm-hmm. And so 69 is there. You get on down in Texas, get past Houston, and go on down that way like you're going to Victoria. Down there they're calling the NAFTA highway that down there. But what they did, and Bill Clinton was president when that came through, That's the reason they said a bridge had to be built north of Greenville, because he wanted it to go through Arkansas. And when I think Trent Lott may have had a lot to do with it, when he got it changed and the route came more through Mississippi and down through the Mississippi Delta, and Old Highway 61 became the 4-lane, which they've already done, all the way to Vicksburg. But they want them to cross and turn now around Cleveland, Mississippi, and go across the swamp north of, it's in the very northern part of Arkansas, and come in there and then go back.
You mean in the southeast corner down there?
He kept catching Shreveport. That way they catch some of Arkansas with that highway, NAFTA highway also. And that bridge, look, they're building a bridge. You know, a bridge fell in out by my farm, and that keeps me from going back to the farm right now and living. But that bridge is costing $17 million. It was built when the Corps of Engineers put Grenada Lake in 1950. And at that, and I noticed the price of it then was $800 and something thousand. And it's a $17 million bridge today. That's from 1950 till now. So can you imagine what infrastructure would cost if you did all bridges? You know, they're building a bridge just on the regular highway south of here. And I think that bridge is costing something like $6 million. And it's only across what I call a small creek.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just the cost. Jerry, these things end up being so darn lengthy for the repairs. And I want to bring in a bridge from the eastern portion of the Southeast as a bridge that I traveled over and scared me. That's the scariest bridge I've ever been across, the old Grace Bridge in Charleston, South Carolina, that connected Charleston to Mount Pleasant. That's the Highway 17 bridge. Do you remember that old bridge there?
Yeah.
Pretty scary, huh?
Yeah, it's I guess 17 is the last highway to the east and parallels the coast there.
Well, that bridge, there were actually two different bridges, both like side by side, and it was extremely narrow, and your heart was up at the top of your throat every time you went across it. Well, after years and years of debating what to do, they finally found a way to build a replacement bridge. And what they did, you've got to go look at it. The Arthur Ravenel Bridge was built, and when they built that bridge, instead of taking years and years of not having a bridge to cross, they just built this massive new bridge on top of the existing old bridges. So you never lost the ability to go back and forth. You just kind of leapfrogged over the old bridge. And the Arthur Ravenel Bridge, I'm just going to say they did an amazing job building it in a very short amount of time. That bridge in South Carolina, by the way, is a total of 13,200 feet. It's very, very long. And it also has a height of 575 feet. Yeah. So it's a big bridge. And if they can do there in South Carolina that massive bridge that's quite some length and height, then we need to start doing that same process around the entire Southeast, because that's the one problem that's got to get fixed.
You're right. And what that made me think of, you remember the earthquake that hit Oakland and San Francisco?
1989, 1990, 91, right. Somewhere in that period.
91. I'd just been out there and I just missed it, luckily. But you remember it was a bridge similar to what you're talking about, where traffic was under a layer of highway, and it caved in and killed all those people in those cars. That was in the middle part of the bridge. So they had built a double deck bridge there. And as far as I know, they built a double-deck bridge back. I don't think I've been to San Francisco since then. But that's been done, and I've seen it done more places. Cincinnati, Ohio, across the Ohio River there. You've seen that one. You've probably been across that bridge.
I have.
It's a double-deck deal, too. And but if it's in an earthquake-prone area, which Memphis is, right up the river from Memphis, it one of the biggest earthquakes we ever had. Mississippi River flowed backwards. It flowed north. So that was in the late 1800s. And they keep saying we're due for another one in that area. So, Memphis could be looking at something where they really need to construct this. I think that's one reason that they kind of overlooked the big the big Hernando de Soto Bridge is because the only problem they've had with it in all the years it's been built is it kind of laid on the, the way they string those things. They don't have all the weight on one side, and it's on the other side. Well, on the Arkansas side, the columns had sunk in a little bit. They thought they shut it down for a day or two, or maybe a day. And Arkansas checked it out, got it back up. Wasn't nothing wrong. That's the only problem they've ever had until this crack in the beam was discovered.
Yeah.
And they kind of, Arkansas's got the responsibility. I understand, and you sure know this because you was talking about it a while ago. They have the responsibility for checking that. But for some reason, the state of Tennessee's got maintenance on it. But Arkansas had checked it here recently. But then I heard kind of a cover-up situation. Everything's a conspiracy theory with me. But I kind of heard where they said, hey, it could have happened 2 days after it was inspected. Maybe it didn't have that. But a guy that was on a riverboat down on the river, he's got camera pictures that he took, and he's showing a crack in it 2 or 3 months ago when he blows those photos up.
Gosh. So and again, that's another aspect of this, that barge traffic was shut down for a few days. Barges had to just sit there and wait in the Memphis area for this bridge for them to get the green light to go underneath it.
Absolutely. And I don't know what the hike on that one is. It's a good couple 100, 300 feet to the river, I'm sure. Depending on the elevation of the river, how much snow and how much rain up the Ohio's had and how much come out of the rock. But the Missouri comes into it too. Everything feeds into it just above Memphis.
Yeah.
So a lot of water comes down through there.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of traffic comes down through there.
A lot of water, a lot of water underneath our bridge and through our bridge here, Jerry, when we get together with you each week. But we'll be following that story, and we knew that you'd have a little something to say about it. That's why we wanted to get the Toccopola Storyteller to weigh in on some current events.
Yeah. Try to throw a comment in there, too.
Jerry, great to talk to you. We'll catch up with you again next week right here on the Yall Show.
Enjoyed it. You have a good week.
Yes, sir.
And I'll see you again.
All right. The Toccopola Storyteller, everybody, Jerry Short. And that will wrap up this section of the Yall Show. More of the show all about the South is coming up right after this. Stay where you are.